It is the meeting of the Premier League's two remaining unbeaten teams today. Liverpool, with 5 wins from 5 now, are at Crystal Palace this afternoon, with Oliver Glasner's side hoping to extend their current run to 12 league games without defeats. Arne Slot is, of course, without the suspended Hugo Ekitike today, so Alexander-Isak is in from the start. And the boss has made one other change from the team that beat Everton last weekend. Florian Wirtz is back in the starting 11 too. The Reds have a great recent record at Selhurst Park. It's 9 wins from the last 10 visits here. We are with you live until kick-off, and full audio commentary is available on LFC TV and all Red video from 3 o'clock. And we will get straight into the starting 11 for Liverpool this afternoon. It is as follows in squad number order. Alisson starts this afternoon. Virgil van Dijk is alongside Ibu Konate and Milos Kerkez. Florian Wirtz returns, as we said at the top of the show, to the side at Crystal Palace this afternoon. Dominic Szoboszlai retains his place from the Merseyside derby, while, as mentioned, Alexander-Isak starts up front. Alexis McAllister, fresh from becoming a new dad this week, starts today. And the 11 is completed by Mohamed Salah, Conor Bradley and Ryan Gravenberch. The substitutes for Liverpool this afternoon against Crystal Palace: Georgi Mabedashvili, Joe Gomez, Wataru Endo, Federico Chiesa, Curtis Jones, Cody Gakpo, Andy Robertson, Jeremy Frimpong and Rio Ngamoa. And that is how the Reds line up today for what looks to be a very tough trip to Selhurst Park this afternoon. Nigel Spatman and David James are my guests. You've been taking in that starting 11. Your initial thoughts, David?
Well, good afternoon, first of all.
Good afternoon to you too.
Yes, I mean, one of the changes was obvious in Ekitike, from the Everton game, that is, obviously with his suspension. As say, with Wirtz coming back in, yeah, it looks good. I mean, it's going to be a tough game because, as you say, Palace, I think, was it 17, 18 games now, unbeaten, making it very difficult for teams. Not that they're prolific in scoring, but they're very good defensively. So the guys up front are going to have a tough day, but I'm sure they'll do it.
Yeah, 17 games in all competitions, and obviously some silverware in that time as well, Nigel. So it looks to be a tough game, this one.
Yeah, I did the Community Shield, and I said it was going to be a difficult game because they're so well structured. Oliver Glasner has really got them. They all know their jobs within the group, within the team, the structure. Mateta up front, who's very dangerous, who holds the ball up. And then they've got good movement from midfield as well, but solid defensively with that back three. So it's always a tough game against Palace. It's always tough going to Selhurst Park, but we have a very good record there.
We do indeed.
Yeah, and I think we go there full of confidence. I think Isak coming in, having watched him the other night, he looked a little bit off it, but you could see he was pushing himself, trying to get those minutes in his legs and the strength back in his legs and the sharpness back in his legs.
Yeah, and he of course got off the mark, David, which is really important because there's a lot of pressure on him with just the price tag alone that he comes with, and he can relax a little now having got that first goal.
Yeah, as Nigel said, I think, you know, everything, without going into detail around the obviously the transfer, meant that he wasn't getting the preparation that you would expect. I mean, of course, it helps when the opposition give you a give you a gift, but
hand, yeah.
He didn't have necessarily the preparation that you would expect in pre-season, so he could come to Liverpool ready 100% to start, and all these added minutes will make him sharper, fitter, if you like. You'll obviously be doing some work off the field, but you still, as a striker, need to get off the mark. Now he has, and hopefully he'll be looking at possibly 90 minutes if needed today. Well,
I was going to ask you that because he got 45 obviously midweek, so I was going to say maybe, is it more like an hour? What are you expecting now?
I think it depends how the game's going and the scoreline, because I have to say Chiesa did really well in that case to set him up for the goal there, who had a fantastic game the other night. He might be the one who has to come on and play as a number 9. If Isak goes off, if he doesn't last the whole 90 minutes, because we really haven't got anybody else. Szoboszlai has played up there, Wirtz has played up there at times as well. But if we can get in front and be comfortable second half, I'm sure we want to take Isak off. The last thing you want is someone who's not quite fully fit breaking down and then missing a European game midweek away in Galatasaray. So it's all very difficult for the manager with what happened with Ekitike the other time, the stupidity of getting a red card.
Well, I was just about to move on to that because we are seeing, there we go, Alexander-Isak and the rest of the Liverpool squad arriving at Selhurst Park. But of course his place up front was pretty much nailed on today due to what happened with Ugo Ekitike midweek. 2 yellow cards. I think we'll show you both of them, and I think it's fair to say both of them quite needless bookings, David, and understandably Arne Slot was not too happy afterwards.
No, not at all. Happy that is, and rightly so. I mean, the first one is so obvious. I mean, the second one, there's a part where you can see some kind of, I don't know, frustration if you want, or happiness. I mean, I think you explained yourself, you're so overjoyed, but again, you just got to think about what position you're in, i.e. you've got a yellow card from the first half, and yeah, that was needless. Could have got away with just in booking, and for Arne and the rest of the team, it would have been a choice of who was going to go up front. Whereas now, as we say, Isak. I mean, the one thing I have to say, going back to Isak quickly, a lot of the fitness work can be done out of games. It's just the match sharpness bit. So I'd imagine now he's been at the club for, what, 2-3 weeks? Seems like an age now. That he could have done a lot of fitness work in preparation for 90 minutes. So I wouldn't be surprised if he does come off, but that will be because Liverpool are in a position where they can afford to take Isak off. But
and I think David was there the other night as well. When they came off at half-time, he was doing fitness work at half-time.
Wow. Okay.
So he was doing a lot of intense sprinting and all that, trying to get his legs going. So hopefully he'll be all right tonight. If needed for 90 minutes, hopefully that'll be all right. But we'd like to be in a position where he can come off after about 70.
We shall see how the game unfolds. Florian Wirtz, of course, did not start the Merseyside derby, Nigel, but he does start this afternoon. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are that he's still trying to find his feet, get used to the intensity, the physicality of the Premier League. I know that he's a fantastic player, having done the Bundesliga. He is a quality player, but he's got to get used to that. He's not going to get these little free kicks that he gets in the Bundesliga. When he gets a little touch and goes down in the Premier League, it's a little bit more unnecessary, really. If you go down trying to get free kicks, sometimes you don't get them. But there's a really good player in there. It's going to be interesting today. Does he play from the left-hand side?
Yeah, I was just going to say,
playing centre?
It's not immediately obvious looking at the 11 names.
And that's his favourite position. When he's playing for Leverkusen, he started on the left-hand side and drifts inside and gets into those little pockets. He's a very clever player. Then receives the ball at his feet whilst he's going into that space, rather than getting it in that space trying to turn in the centre. He can see the picture a little bit more coming from the left-hand side. So it's either him playing on that left-hand side or Subtitles playing on that, Dominic playing on that side. And I think Wirtz to start from that left-hand side.
Yeah, it's the spot that Cody Gakpo often occupies. He is on the bench this afternoon. So is that where you expect us to see Florian Wirtz, at least from the start? There's always the option to change it up throughout the game.
Possibly. I mean, just thinking about the way that Palace play, I mean, to say back three, but essentially it drops into a back five, and they're very good at it. So I think there'll be a lot of movement. I think we saw that in a number of games so far this season. So there'll be times where he's left, there'll be times where he's in the middle. What I find interesting about his start to his Liverpool career is, and Mo Salah as well, I think there's a lot of players who are allowing other players at any given time to do something and just getting used to what it is they're going to do. And I think to be 5 games out of 5 is fantastic, given that the team haven't fully settled down now. Once they settle down, then Florian will be able to go in and do what he normally does, as he already has been doing. I think Mo will be back up to speed doing what he's done. It's a really interesting and good place for Liverpool to be in at the moment. People are just finding themselves and fitting into that system.
OK, we are going to join Ray Houghton, who is down at Selhurst Park, for us very, very shortly indeed. First, though, let's talk you through the team that Liverpool are going to be facing today. It is Crystal Palace's starting 11. It's a Palace side, captained, of course, by Mark Gay. Many eyes will be on him this afternoon down at Selhurst Park. Oliver Glasner has been handed a boost with the return of Ismaila Sarr from injury. He's missed Palace's last 2 games with a hamstring issue, but he does come back into the side to face Liverpool this afternoon. While Jean-Philippe Mateta, 29 Premier League goals in 55 games for him. He leads the line for Palace this afternoon. And we will chat much more about the threat that Palace side will pose very shortly. First, though, let's make our first trip down to Selhurst Park this afternoon and speak to Liverpool legend and, of course, former Crystal Palace favourite as well, Ray Houghton. Good afternoon to you, Ray. How are you?
Yeah, very well indeed. Good afternoon to you from Selhurst Park. And look at that pitch. 2 years I played here. I don't remember it being like that once in them 2 years. Absolutely in pristine condition. So both teams have got no complaints in the game today.
Well, listen, let's speak about the Liverpool starting 11 before we speak to you later about Crystal Palace. And Alexander-Arnold, we must start with him. He starts this afternoon. You must be really looking forward to seeing him and Mo Salah in from the off today.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think Isak's going to be a major player for Liverpool. You just have to look at his career at Newcastle and what he did there. He's a predator. He wants to play within the confines of the 18-yard box. He wants to make runs in behind the back line. And we've got the players that can see them passes, and that's what you have to do, play quickly, get the ball in behind the opposition's back five, back three, back four, whoever you're playing against. He'll make the right runs, and the fitter he gets, the more he trains and he plays with the players, the better he'll become, and the goals will certainly start to come, and I think he'll get plenty before the end of the season.
Yeah, just on fitness, the lads in the studio here were just debating how long they expect to see him out there this afternoon. Obviously, the absence of Hugo Ekitike hasn't helped Arne Slot with his planning, but how long do you anticipate we might see Isak for, or does it, as these guys said, depend on how the game unfolds?
Yeah, it depends on how the game's going and how much effort he's had to put in the early stages of the game as well. You know, he came off at half-time in the game against Southampton. I know he was doing some speed work at the interval, and that's just to get his fitness level up. All the data will be there. You know, the medical staff at Liverpool will know exactly how long he can last, and they'll make sure that he doesn't get into the red zone, because you don't want to lose him for any period of time. I mean, Liverpool are very fortunate that they've got the fact that Isak can come in and start when your Ekitiki's gone out. There's many clubs in the Premier League who've got a like for like in them positions, players that can come in and really make an emphasis in the game and be that threat, the goal scorer. Ekitiki's shown it so far, and I'm sure Isak will do that as well.
Now, Florian Wirtz is the other change from the Merseyside derby. He didn't start against Everton. He does start at Selhurst Park this afternoon. Again, we were just debating in the studio there, you may have heard us, just where we think he will line up this afternoon, because it's not immediately obvious when you look at the names on the team sheet. What's your guess?
Yeah, I think it is. I think he's going to play on the left. It has to be the way that Liverpool played last week. I've got to say, in that game against Everton, I was there for the match. First 30 minutes, that's the best I've seen Liverpool play this season. You know, the way they broke through the thirds, the pass and the movement, the way that they closed the opposition down, the opportunities that they created, they were absolutely sensational. Yeah, they slipped off it because Everton got a foothold in the game and got back into it. But the manager will be really pleased with what he's seen in the early part of that game. Whether they can stay in it through 90 minutes, you'll be looking for that in the upcoming fixtures that they've got. But the signs were very, very good in that game. And for Wirtz, just because of the dynamic of the midfield, when you've got Gravenberch, McAllister and Szoboszlai, they'll be the three in the middle. He'll have to be on that left-hand side of a front three, as far as I can see it. And my slight concern about him playing out there, the way that Palace line up with the three centre-backs and the two wing-backs, they love to get the wing-backs forward, and just how disciplined is he going to be helping out with Kirkish in defensive situations?
Yeah, Ray, that's one of the things I was looking at. Muniz, who gets down that right-hand side, really pushes on, puts a good ball into the box as well, and Kirkish coming back in and Wirtz playing in front of him. That might be a little bit of a vulnerability for us down that side.
Well, it might be, Nigel, but you quite rightly pointed out, when he played in the Bundesliga, a lot of times he played on the left of the midfield, and he comes in field as well. And he was very good at doing it. You know, he's got experience, he's got that ability. Yeah, at the moment, I heard you saying he's still finding his feet at the moment. I totally agree with you. But that, from my point of view, not everyone's is going to settle into a team straight away. He's came with a huge price tag. Everyone had an expectation of the level of performance he was going to give week in, week out. He hasn't quite delivered at that level at the moment. But let me tell you, he's got the ability to do it. And I think once the pressure's taken off him somewhat and he can just play his natural game, you'll see him come to the fore. He'll get better, Liverpool will get better, and you'll just see the different dynamic of the team change.
Yeah, and I think also with the pace of Isak to get in behind, he will find those little balls into him, to his feet or in behind the defender. He's a clever player. He'll see the runs and put decent balls in.
I've got to be honest with you, Nigel, I look across the whole midfield and I see that. You know, Mo Salah, look at the ball he played in the other week when you've seen Gravenberch getting forward for the goal that he scored. Absolutely sensational. So Bosley's got more of a range. He's got that length of pass. He can play you 50, 60 yards. And then you've got also McAllister, another player that can see a pass. Gravenberch, I think, has improved immensely from last season. I think it's a total change in his game. When he's receiving the ball, he's now looking forward. I think last season, far too often, he was playing backwards and square. But you've seen him this time around, on the front foot, looking forward and trying to play the passes that's going to influence the game. Different dimension the way that Liverpool are playing at the moment. And a lot of teams are going to struggle to keep pace with them because they've got pace up front and they've got players who are very, eventful in possession of the ball that can create opportunities.
I want to get a word from you, Ray, finally in this chat anyway, about the overall start to the season and how impressive it's been, because today's, of course, an opportunity to make it 6 wins out of 6. Arne Slot said even for him it's been a better start to the season than he could ever have imagined. I mean, you've obviously played in title-winning sides yourself. I mean, how difficult is it to put in performances and consistency like that when you are, of course, the side that everyone wants to take a shot at?
Yeah, you've got a massive target on your back, Becky, that's for sure. Everyone wants to be the first team to beat Liverpool this season. And don't forget, the lads have played Champions League football. They played in the Carabao Cup midweek as well. They've also played international football. So there's been a lot of games in a short space of time. A lot of travelling. The lads travelled down for the game today, last night. They go to Galatasaray on Monday. Then they're back down to Chelsea on Friday. So it's movement, they're moving it around. And it's not just the physical side of it, it's the mental side of it as well and how you cope with that. The players have done it really well at the moment. And the other thing they've got is a very strong bench. You've got like-for-like players that can come on and change the game, which is very unique when you look at other teams in the Premier League itself.
Ray Houghton holding the fort for us down at Selhurst Park this afternoon. Thank you very much. We will be back with Ray very shortly to speak about the Crystal Palace lineup. But first, let's go back to what we said, David, at the top of the show about how good Liverpool's recent record is at Selhurst Park. Out of the last 10 visits, won 9, drawn 1. There's also a stat where you look at the entire Premier League fixtures. They've beaten Crystal Palace more times at Selhurst Park in the Premier League than they have at Anfield. So it's definitely not a bogey ground, this one.
Yeah, those dates don't quite stretch back to when I played there, but I don't think... we even back in the day, the beginning of the Premier League, I mean, it was a happy hunting ground for Liverpool, so I don't know what it is. I think in the earlier days maybe the Crystal Palace weren't the side that they are now. I mean, this is still going to be a very tough game for Liverpool, regardless of recent results. But I don't know if it's the old school changing rooms, the old school,
or the pitch,
everything about it. Yeah, it's a very unique stadium in the Premier League.
It is. It's certainly a tough place for the fans to get to as well, travelling from Merseyside. Absolutely. So at least they usually go home happy. Hopefully the same again today. Let's have a look at what happened down there at Selhurst Park last season. And it was a single goal from Diogo Jota that won the game and took all 3 points for Liverpool. Nige, one of the many, many times that Diogo illustrated that knack of scoring decisive goals as this one proved to be.
In a tight game, he normally comes up with the goods with Diogo, and it's a great finish under the goalkeeper Henderson. And what a player, and everybody knows what a fantastic player he is in the terrible circumstances. But some of the performance he put in, especially away from home in crucial games, he'll always be there to put the ball in the back of the net and make it a 1-0 or a 2-1.
Yeah, forever missed Diogo Jota. Let's get a word from the boss now. Here is Arne Slot, starting with his thoughts on today's hosts.
They have an enormous discipline defensively. 10 outfield players plus a goalkeeper that work so hard to prevent the other team from scoring. And we saw this also in the Charity Shield. Even the moments when we were up, they could still be very disciplined and calm in their own half, in their mid to low block. And apart from that, they have some individual quality, some individual players who are a big threat offensively. Mateta is one of them. Sar, who wasn't available last week but might be available this week again, was really good against us in the Charity Shield. 2 midfielders that know how to play. Yeah, and good centre back, so good wing backs. So a good team, but that is what I would say every Premier League team has, but what maybe stands out for me with them is their discipline and their defensive work. I think they haven't lost 17 games in a row now. So difficult team to beat, but we are also a difficult team to beat, as we've shown when we played against each other, because we've beaten them once with 1-0 and twice it was a draw.
You're looking to keep your perfect start to the Premier League season intact. Was it taken even you by surprise, and what do you put it down to?
Surprise is maybe a bit too strong to say, but if you would have asked me that after playing Newcastle away, Arsenal at home and all these difficult games we had, that we would have the maximum result, I would have probably told you, that is, I would sign for that straight away, which is normal. But if you look at the games, they were all of them, not all of them, most of them were quite close. So we might have been a bit lucky as well to get the maximum points. Although, I was just saying about the work rate of Palace, we work incredibly hard as well, and if you work as hard as we do, you give yourself the chance maybe to be a bit lucky, if you would call it luck then. And I don't think we stole a win. It wasn't as if we totally not deserved it, but there were games that a draw would have been maybe more fair. So yeah, looking at the schedule we had, I'm more than pleased that we have the maximum points.
Rio will be his first contract as well. He's still so young at 17. Do you have to work about keeping expectations down, or are you just happy to let him go for it?
Now, the good thing is, if you are a youngster playing at Liverpool, there are players where you are playing with who are still better than you are. And that, I think, helps to stay grounded and to know there are still steps to make. If you are playing at maybe a club of a lower level and you are that good as Rio, you maybe belong straight away to the best players of the team, and that can lead to maybe a situation where he's not as grounded as he should be. But here that's not a problem at all. First of all, because who he is, he's a player that constantly wants to improve. But if you train and play with other wingers like Cody Gakpo and Mo Salah and Federico Chiesa and all the others, then I think he feels that there's still a step to make. First of all, to get to their level, and if he is at their level, then it's about being as consistent as these players are. And that is the most difficult thing. Become really good is something a lot of players maybe can do, but become consistently really good is what why the top players stand out.
Yeah, the thoughts of Arne Slot, whose start to life at Liverpool has been nothing short of beyond anyone's wildest dreams, I think. To put it into context, take a look at this. The manager at the moment has 99 Premier League points. That is after 44 games. He will become the fastest Liverpool manager to the 100-point mark in the Premier League era. He's got 4 games to get the 1 point that he needs. You would imagine he will do that, Nige, but he's just eclipsed all of the hopes that I think anyone, probably including himself, would have had when he took the reins.
Yeah, but you have to look at it in context and say he inherited a very good squad when he came in after obviously Klopp had really assembled a really good squad of players. Surprisingly to everybody, really, he didn't bring anybody in, and I think that was a great shout. Or they couldn't get the players they wanted at the time, and then surprised everybody, or near enough everybody, by winning the title and winning it by 15 points or whatever it was, 10 points or whatever it was, and then started this season so well. I think the only downside was losing a cup final and getting knocked out by PSG, but you can't have everything. But to win the title is the biggest thing for a manager in his first season. Now he wants to retain it. The club have backed him in the market, brought in some really good players, and as David said earlier, not quite gelled 100% yet, but they're getting there and they will get better. And under his stewardship, I think Liverpool are heading in the right direction and everything looks really good. The one downside is obviously the injury the other night to Giovanni, which we will speak about. Yeah. But other than that, we've got a little bit of a test now. Palace away, Galatasaray away, Chelsea away. So I think this is the real first test of the season so far, but he's done a magnificent job, and what a really nice man he is. Yeah, we will speak about Giovanni Leone in just a moment, but just to go back to what the boss was speaking about in his press conference regarding Crystal Palace, David, he's very open and honest and said Liverpool have had some tough battles. Of course, we showed you the 1-0 win at Selhurst Park last season. It was 1-1 on the final game of last season at Anfield, which was basically a party atmosphere throughout the whole of the game. But then the Community Shield as well, which ended
As we'll all remember, in a shootout defeat for Liverpool, and this was a game where defensive frailties at times cost them.
Yeah, I mean, this was a tough one. That was at the game, so it made it even more tough. I mean, I'm not a fan of scoring early, I have to say. Statistically, it doesn't give you the advantage of winning a game, but there was, again, elements here which I think, given that it's Community Shield, it is a competitive game in the sense that you want to win a trophy, but it's not going to corrupt the rest of your season, hopefully. And slightly fortuitous goal there from Frimpong, but this was an opportunity for new players at Liverpool to understand what playing at Liverpool was like, especially on a massive stage at Wembley. So, despite the result, I think it's helped the start to the Premier League, and having a situation where they could have won in the penalty shootout, I actually think the start of the Premier League would have been very different.
Yeah.
Because the expectations would have been on these new players in that first game at Wembley, and all of a sudden you know what it's like to play for Liverpool, you also know what it's like not to win the trophy you're expected to do. And then it comes with a whole host of different expectations. So, even if I'm not saying just because of that one game, but I think a lot of the players then feel like we don't want to be in this position again. We'll score a late goal to win.
That though, because obviously there's lessons to be learned in life, even in difficult experiences. Sometimes some of the best lessons come from the toughest experiences.
Absolutely, and that's what makes great players come out in the end, that against adversity they come through. If it's an injury or it's bad results or whatever, they come through and they get through the very top, and you've got to be single-minded to do that. But when you're playing for a massive club, as David would tell you, is you've got to do it week in, week out, game in, game out. And that's the expectation levels. The fans expect it, your manager expects it, but you expect it of yourself in the end. And that's why you're in the team. But when you've got great squads these days, and they're massive squads, you know that at some point in the season you have a little rest, depending on your positions, or if it's a cup game for a goalkeeper, have a little rest, because other players need to get that experience of playing for Liverpool in big games as well, in front of big crowds, because that's the expectations. But at the moment, we're doing so well. But as we're going to talk about in a minute, Giovanni is a bit of a blow to the squad and the balance of the squad.
Yeah, well, let's speak about him now, because obviously that was a really difficult moment against Southampton midweek, and a time when, as well, David, obviously he makes his debut, and were it not for Federico Chiesa, I think he probably would have been a lot of people's player of the match. He had a really, really strong performance on his debut, 18 years old, and then that happens. It's just heartbreaking.
It is, yeah, and I think when we talk about football and the beautiful side of it, there are these moments where things totally unexpected, and it wasn't deliberate in any way. You end up with what could be a long-term, well, it is a long-term injury. How long remains to be seen, but you just think that get through this game, and as you say, there's an opportunity to maybe play today, maybe put another game in, and 18 years old, the pathway for Liverpool could be very exciting for him, and hopefully with the medical staff that Liverpool have got and the specialists that they will be seeing, that he will have to halt for a period but then get another chance to show his qualities.
Yeah, the boss was very honest in his press conference. He said it's incredibly hard to try and find any positives from a situation like that. If you have to dig deep, maybe, as Arne Slot says, it is that he's young, and he also has the likes of Virgil van Dijk, Joe Gomez, who've been through very similar situations that he can lean on, and of course will provide him with great support, you would think.
Yeah, I think everybody clutches at straws for a positiveness, but if you're 18 years of age, you're just making your debut for Liverpool, you've had a brilliant game, and in the 81st minute that happens. And for the manager and the coaching staff who have worked with him, saying how well he's done in training, how good he's looking, suddenly you've lost a player that you can rely on, or you think you can rely on. But for Giovanni, as David said, with the medical staff, with the rehab, with the surgeons these days, but no ACL injuries the same as we just touched on. There's different ones. Yeah. But with the rehab staff here, and Virgil, who's gone through that as well, other players, Chiesa's been through that as well, and it's taken him an awful long way to get back to his very best, as he showed the other night. I'm really pleased for him. But for a young player, 18, with all the backup, hopefully he'll be back within a year and showing us what a fine footballer he is and what a bright future he has. Yeah,
we absolutely wish him all the best in his recovery, Giovanni Leone. From one youngster to another, very different circumstances. Happily for Rio and Gamoa, much brighter ones, with his first professional contract this week, David. I mean,
is it first professional contract?
Yes, it certainly is. At 17 years old, and only just 17 as well, only turned 17 a couple of weeks ago. What an incredible feature he has. You might have seen with the Ballon d'Or this week, talked out in him for a future Ballon d'Or, which is big talk, but you can see why already from what we've seen.
Massively premature, that is, I think. As I'm sure every club who's got a teenager who could score winning goals like this hopes that the young starlet might become a Ballon d'Or winner. But what I like, especially about this goal as well, is a game that is being drawn, should I say. Arne Slot didn't have a problem putting him on the field, and then he goes and scores the winner. And he's come on in other games where the score has been equal, and not necessarily obviously scored the goal, but Arne's trusted him at 16, as he was at the time, to have a positive influence on a game. And there are other managers in the Premier League who put teenagers on when the scoreline's like 4-0 up, and it's like, go and experience it. Whereas Arne's looking at his bench and going, this young man Rio can have a positive influence. So if there is anything on the early steps of a Ballon d'Or path, I think Arne Slot thinks he's got the confidence to put him on that pathway.
Yeah, well, you saw Michael Owen coming through at that time, who obviously did go on to win a Ballon d'Or. So in terms of
I mean,
what does Rio need to do then to go on down that path?
You're getting me into this conversation now. Well, first of all, start games. Michael was starting games and scoring goals. I mean, not initially. Funny enough, I think one of Michael's early games one of his early goals was at Selhurst Park against Wimbledon in his first season. But Michael was banging in goals for fun. He was Michael was an anomaly as a teenager when we growing up, going through the Premier League era. Rio has a lot to do. He's doing it very well at the moment, and again, I think, which is indicative of Liverpool in recent years, that these players will be given the opportunities at the right time to develop them. And hopefully, as I say, 17 years old, in 10 years' time we could be talking about a Ballon d'Or winner, but that will be because the pathway for him has been laid out the right way.
I think we can say he's got a bright future, Ballon d'Or or not, that remains to be seen. But it is 5 from 5 in the league for Liverpool, 2 from 2 in the other competitions. Here is a reminder of that Derby Day win.
The 213th league meeting of these old friends and old foes as they come face to face at Anfield once again. Salah's ball, Gravenberg's run and scoop! Oh! That's dynamite from Ryan Gravenberg! What a ball by Salah! What a finish! Well, this is going to break for Salah! Nearly. Beautiful. Szoboszlai and McAllister exchanging passes. Ekitike, yes! Sumptuous Liverpool goal, carved out in midfield. Liverpool guilty of giving the ball away. In this little period for Everton, Grealish again. Dangerous looking ball, Gay, yes for Everton. That's Virgil van Dijk. Oh, hello, that's awkward. And all of a sudden, Liverpool have some defending to do with the very last moment of the game. And we all know what happened at Goodison. Grealish might have rushed that, you know. Everton didn't really get men forward. And now they've given the ball away, but it doesn't matter. Liverpool were probably going to run away and score. But the derby has been won. And Liverpool have made it 5 from 5.
Yeah, another win, which is always nice in the derby, isn't it, Nigel? That is the big positive. If we are going to be a tiny little bit negative, it was maybe another example of a pattern that we have seen in a few games this season, where Liverpool surge ahead and then the opposition somehow find their way back into the game. Is that a concern for you at all?
It's a little bit of a concern, because I think in several games that I've done a lot of the games this season and that was one of them, Everton, was we could have been 3 or 4 up actually, And for half an hour, we played really well at home. And sometimes you've got to be clinical and take those chances and finish the opposition off as early as you can. But second half, Everton came into it because they changed their tactics a little bit as well. And we kept giving the ball away in tight areas. And they punished us with the goal. And then it got really nervy. But we hung on and dug in. And that's what champions do. And we saw it through in the derby at Anfield, which is always nice.
It's a funny one where if you watch it back, you wonder whether Liverpool were ever really under that much pressure in the second half, or was it almost the derby nerves that come into play and you think, oh gosh, and then if you watch it with a clear head, you think they probably were fairly comfortable, David?
Yeah, I was at the game and talking to fans afterwards, and it was funny. I said, you're in a wonderful position to not moan, but it was kind of, oh yeah, again, it was close. And I'm like, yeah, but you're in a wonderful position to be able to do this, having won the game, as we have in every game. I don't think Everton were that dangerous. The first half in particular, I thought they lacked a lot, so it made it a bit more comfortable for Liverpool. But as Nigel said, the goal came from Liverpool losing possession. Within 3 passes, Jack Grealish has crossed with his left foot, which everyone thought he doesn't do, which obviously he can. And it's a great knockdown and a great finish. And I think that if there's any concern, it is the loss of possession in winning positions to allow teams to then go and score. And Atletico Madrid, I think, was a similar situation. But we have to give credit to the opposition here as well. It's not like we're playing bad teams and allowing them back in. Everton have started the season very well. I think someone said to me the other day, Everton were unbeaten, weren't they? They lost first game against Leeds. But they were proving to be a very tough team to play against up to that point. Crystal Palace, again, is going to be another tough team. So Liverpool aren't having easy games and throwing away leads. I mean, Palace had shown this in the Community Shield, as mentioned before. As FA Cup winners and on an unbeaten run, they were having all the confidence they wanted. So I think it's more to do with the quality of the opposition at times and the ability to quickly counter-attack, as opposed to Liverpool, we're winning and we're not in a position.
Yeah, you've always got to look at the tactics of the opposition. And Everton played first half, the goalkeeper whacks it up, trying to get a throw in, trying to get a corner, trying to get a set play, get a long throw, which have come back into the game now. And Liverpool dealt with that quite well, and Everton had to try and change it a little bit. They did a little bit, but it was a mistake from us. And Alisson made a couple of decent saves second half as well. But coming on to Crystal Palace are one of those teams that sit off you. They play with a back 5 or a back 3, and they sit in. They don't press you high up the pitch and try and nick the ball. They try and force you into full sense of security. You get too many players forward, and then they try and nick the ball, and then they break really quickly on the counter-attack. And that's what they do. The turnover of speed from them, I think, is probably the best in the Premier League. But pressing high is probably the worst. So tactically, they're going to sit back and try and suck you on. And that's probably, as David was saying, we were talking earlier, the 2 wins they've had is away from home.
Yeah, I mean, there are other elements to Palace, and I think what we have to be careful of here as well is, again, going back to the Community Shield in particular, because it wasn't that long ago, is that they do like to play wide with Munoz on the right-hand side. I mean, effectively, because they've got 3 at the back, they're actually pushing one more forward in that sort of midfield. He stands out wide. He'll get a lot of ball. If you go, Kirkes in particular, if he goes over there and tries to block him, then they'll go through the middle. They're very good at what they do, putting in far post crosses. But going back to the Community Shield, I think the game changed when Kirkes was beaten in the air a couple of times, and it seems to be the go-to ball then. And whether or not they did identify it in the Community Shield, whether or not they think that's going to be their go-to ball this time round.
We shall see. He does start for Liverpool this afternoon, Milos Kerkez. We're seeing the Crystal Palace side arrive there at Selhurst Park. I mean, just a word on the Premier League overall at the moment, Nigel, because even if Liverpool obviously top by some distance, but some people saying they still haven't quite hit top gear yet, and they have those gears to go through. I mean, it seems as well, other sides, Arsenal, Manchester City, to name 2 obvious ones, don't seem yet to be capable almost of putting a run together to really challenge them. Are you surprised at the lack of, I don't want to jinx us and say competition, but you know where I'm coming from?
I think it's a really tough Premier League this season. I think some really good teams in there. I think nobody's really hit top form yet, and that's not surprising when there's a turnover of players. But also, don't forget, you start the season, and then there's an international break, it kicks on, and then there's another international break, it kicks on, and then it's another international break. So, you know, these top players now are being asked to play so many games, high-intensity games as well, as Ray Houghton was saying about all the travelling. But you've just got to try and grind out results. You can't play your best football all the time and win. Sometimes you play really good football and don't get a result, but you know, if you grind results out sometimes, that's what makes you champions. And this is a type of fixture today, which is very difficult. Palace are well drilled in everything they do. They've got a very dangerous striker in Mateta up front who can score goals for you. Pino, who's come in to the middle of the park instead of Eza, is having a really good run of games. So they're a dangerous team, and you've got to go out there and be professional and be hard to break down. But then you've got quality players stand up and win games, and maybe that's Isak today who get and we'll win 1-0.
That would be nice, wouldn't it? Just 1-0. You're not going for any more?
All right, 3.
That would be perfect, wouldn't it? Right, we're going to pause here because if you're watching us on social media, this is where we say goodbye to you, unfortunately. If you do want to carry on watching all the build-up, though, including an interview on the way with Cody Gakpo on the way very shortly, head to liverpoolfc.com/watch for all the details on how to sign up to both LFC TV and All Red Video too. After the break, more build-up is on the way from Selhurst Park and that Cody Gakpo interview as promised as well. From 3 o'clock, we've got live audio commentary on its way, and then you can join us at 5 as we dissect all the talking points from the game in Matchday Live post-match. Then tonight, all of the post-match chats will be available for you in the Reaction podcast dropping later on this evening. Then from tomorrow at 6 o'clock, head to LFC TV. You can see the full match replayed there. And just a nod as well to next week, we've got live football on the channel as the under-19s take on Galatasaray in the UEFA Youth League live from 12:55 p.m. on Tuesday afternoon. For now, though, this afternoon, our attention lies in South East London. Liverpool looking to continue this excellent recent record at Selhurst Park and take the chance to move 8 points clear at the top of the Premier League table as well tonight.